Hey everyone, it is Finn here. Hope you're all doing super well, and welcome back to another Premier League match week prediction video, where in today's video I'll be predicting the results of every game in Premier League match week 2. And what an exciting Premier League match week it is going to be, because we have games like Manchester City versus Wolves, Liverpool versus Chelsea, which is going to be pretty impossible to predict, and many more really exciting games. So you know what, let's just jump into it. But before I jump into it, guys, if you're not subscribed and you enjoy regular Premier League content, please do consider subscribing. It really does help the channel out a lot more than you guys realize, and I would really like to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. Thank you. The first prediction I have for you guys in this brand new Premier League match week will be between Everton and West Brom. And I won't lie to you guys, I don't think West Brom stand that good a chance versus Everton, especially if Everton played the same way they did against Tottenham Hotspurs. They looked so strong, they looked so good, and I think it all comes down to Ancelotti's brand new midfield signings for Everton, which is exactly what you can expect from a world-class manager. Big players coming into your club, and I think Allen, James Rodriguez and Decore are game changers for Everton. Like, Everton looked so strong in the midfield, and it's probably one of the best midfields at the moment in the Premier League. But along with that, Calvert-Lewin had a good game in the striker position. Richarlison played in the left wing for once, and he looked incredible, and he will be my player to watch versus West Brom, because in that game versus Spurs, he was fast, his recoveries were amazing, he created amazing chances, he looked world class, so I would recommend watching him versus West Brom. Even in defence, if you look, Keane had a good day in the centre-back position. Digne showed why he was one of the best set-piece takers in the Premier League. And Pickford even got 5 incredible saves. Everton looks so strong, and that is why my prediction will be a 2-0 win at least in Everton's favour, because they look so strong, and at the end of the day, West Brom looked so sloppy in defence. They looked like David Luiz's hair on a rainy day. Really sloppy and not that good, to be honest with you. And versus Leicester City, West Brom gave away 2 penalties and they lost a goal to a header. I don't think their defence is very good, and that's obviously why they've just gotten Ivanovic, the ex-Chelsea centre-back, in at West Brom, and I think he could potentially be a big game changer. But at the moment, with all the pressure they have back in defence, they're not creating enough up front, and I don't see them competing versus Everton. Leeds United versus Fulham is next, and I have to go for Leeds on this one with a 2-0 win, just because they looked so strong versus Liverpool. Considering they are newly promoted and haven't been in the Premier League for 16 years, they did not care that Liverpool had just won the Premier League title. They had so much confidence behind them, and at the end of the day, I think they'll be the difference maker with Leeds United. How much confidence they've got behind them, and they've actually got a lot of quality in their squad, and I think they will get the result versus Fulham, especially looking at Fulham, how they played against Arsenal. I thought Fulham fell too far back with their defence, they allowed too many chances, and they sat back while the strikers were getting ready to score. Fulham really do need to improve on their defence. Fulham have the quality to do well in their squad. Of course, they've got Mitrovic up front, they've got Tete now in the right back position, and a bunch of other quality players. They just need to be in form, but at the moment, the most informed players are at Leeds United. Harrison scored one of the best goals I've seen in a long time in the Premier League. Bamford, I would recommend starting over Rodrigo, although he's the record signing. And I do have to say, I think the player to watch in this fixture is going to be Helder Costa. Same reason as Richarlison, not because he's probably going to score for the team, but because he creates beautiful chances. And I think Helder Costa versus Liverpool is a huge reason to why they stayed in the game until the 90th minute. Manchester United play their first game of this Premier League season versus Crystal Palace in the next fixture. Now, Palace have just had an incredible game versus Southampton, where they were the better team by a country mile. Yes, I know they only won 1-0 versus Southampton, but they looked fast, dangerous, they created lots of chances. Zaha looked in form, Gaeta looked unstoppable between the posts. Where if you look at United in terms of a result between these two games, United have just lost 1-0 versus Aston Villa in a pre-season friendly. Not the happiest United fan at the moment, but I do think the result between these two teams will be incredibly close, because over the last 2-3 years, the results between these two teams have been very close, and United have always struggled versus Crystal Palace. But I do think in terms of a prediction that I might lean more United's way, and I will give the Red Devils a 2-1 win in this fixture. I just think that Manchester United have a lot more squad depth, in their squad, and I do think that they have a better overall quality in their players throughout the pitch, and that is probably where they will end up winning the game. And in terms of a player to watch, I do want to say Bruno Fernandes, but he hasn't scored from open play in quite a while for United, so I think the comfortable bet that I will have is probably Rashford up front in the striker position or left wing position. He looked fast last season, he looked very clinical, and I hope he does a solid job for United this season. But at the end of the day, I think United will get the result versus Palace, especially considering the fact that Harry Maguire hasn't gone to prison. That's a big plus. Arsenal versus West Ham United is next. Now, Arsenal looked so strong in their first Premier League game of the season versus Fulham. Willian had an incredible debut, pretty much getting a hat-trick of assists in his first debut match for the Gunners, which is very good for him. Gabriel, the new centre-back from Lille, scored a goal. I think this Arsenal team is actually looking really strong and maybe a lot stronger than I anticipated. And Aubameyang did not miss a beat, scored a beautiful goal, looked very clinical, and has just signed a new contract with the Gunners, which I'm pretty sure will give Arsenal as a whole a lot of confidence. Where if you look at West Ham United, they just lost 2-0 versus Newcastle United. They did not look strong at all, and I see them losing to Arsenal again. I think Arsenal could easily get a 2-0 or a 3-0 win versus West Ham United, especially looking at West Ham's defensive style. I think they are very inconsistent with their defending. I think they either lunge into tackles or they sit too far back and allow chances for the opposition. I don't see West Ham scoring against Arsenal either, although Arsenal's defense can be weak at times. Haller has been horrible as of late, Felipe Anderson has been horrible as of late, and all they can really do is score in the EFL Cup. And in terms of a player to watch, after looking at the vision of him in the last game, I have to do Willian. Willian, as I said, a hat-trick of assists in his debut match. His vision was incredible, he creates chances, and might just be the new Mesut Ozil that Arsenal need. Southampton versus Spurs is next. Now, of course, both teams lost their opening games this Premier League season because both of them looked sluggishly slow in their defense. But at the end of the day, in terms of quality, I guess I'm going to have to go for Spurs with a 2-1 win in this fixture. Purely because looking at Southampton, they looked so bad versus Crystal Palace. I mean, I think defensively that is where they were seriously let down. I think Shea Adams, Ings and Ward-Prowse probably had really good games in attack, but defensively they were so bad position-wise, and that is why they lost, because they allowed Zaha way too much space. And if they do that versus Spurs, versus the likes of Bergwijn or Heung-min Son or Harry Kane, they will lose horribly. But you know what, I will only go for a 2-1 win in Spurs' favour, purely because of how bad Southampton's defence was. But Spurs, I really do think they need to step up when it comes to the speed of how fast they play and how fast decisions are made. Because versus Everton, they were just way too slow when it comes to decision making, especially players like Dele Alli, who I've spoken about this a few times, but I do think Spurs still need their perfect Eriksen replacement, because I don't think Dele Alli is that man. I think position-wise, he really lets Spurs down. He runs into the wrong pockets of space, he's too slow, he doesn't create the chances fast enough, and at the end of the day, I think that can let Spurs down. But until then, I do still think that they will get the win versus Southampton. I do think it will be very close, and in terms of a player to watch, probably Heung-min Son, because he created some lovely chances for Tottenham Hotspurs, for both Harry Kane, even when Doherty ran up the wing. I thought that Heung-min Son created beautiful chances for him, and I think he probably will be the player to watch. Next prediction I have for you guys is going to be quite an interesting one actually. It's going to be between Magpie and Seagull, Newcastle United and Brighton. Wow, this game could be really, really close, but for some reason, I don't see a lot of people backing Brighton's abilities at all throughout this Premier League season. I've seen a few people say that Brighton could get relegated this season. But in my opinion, with my observations, I thought Brighton was the better team versus Chelsea in the first half of that game. If they didn't fall off in the second half, we could have had a really close game on our hands. But unfortunately, I will admit, Chelsea just do have the stronger team overall. But you know what, Brighton do have a chance of getting a result versus Newcastle United. My only worry is the fact that Lallana is injured and might not be able to play the game. But attacking-wise, if Brighton attack like they did versus Chelsea, they could get a lot of goals this Premier League season. Bar the mistake, I thought Matt Ryan did really well in goal, and I think Dunk and the likes of Ben White did a solid job in the centre-back positions. But unfortunately, I will still give Newcastle United the win in this prediction. A 2-1 win, Brighton will score. They do look that good in attack. But at the end of the day, looking at Newcastle United versus West Ham, that was easily Newcastle United's best Premier League performance in the last 2 seasons or so in the Premier League. Newcastle United for once looked threatening in attack, and because of that they will get the win over Brighton. I think Wilson will be the player to watch, as he is the player that adds that threatening appearance to Newcastle's attack. Wilson did such a good job versus West Ham. He created chances, he took shots, he looked like the perfect striker for Newcastle United. We get to the big game of this Premier League match week. It is going to be Chelsea versus Liverpool. I'm not too sure how I'm going to predict this one. I think people are going to hate me or disagree with me either way I go. But looking at both squads, Chelsea in their first game versus Brighton, the game I just spoke about. Obviously, as I said, they weren't that good in the first half of the game, but they had a lot of pace, and the new boys actually looked very good. I think Havertz looked really good, and I mean, his passing was just pinpoint accuracy. Even his passing to the linesman, hey, I'm just saying, if the linesman continued his run, he could have had a really beautiful goal. But Havertz looked really good. Timo Werner, although he didn't score, I think his pace will be very crucial in the game versus Liverpool. Unfortunately, Ziyech is injured, so we won't see a game from him. We might see Thiago Silva, and Ben Chilwell is still in doubt, but he might be able to play. But this Chelsea's team looks really, really strong, and this is going to be such a tricky game to predict, especially looking at Liverpool. Obviously, they've got a lot of strength in their squad. The only battle they might lose is the midfield battle, but at the end of the day, I do think they got somewhat lucky versus Leeds United. Obviously, Leeds United got 2 penalties conceded versus Liverpool, and I think without those penalties, Liverpool probably would have lost against Leeds. I don't think Liverpool have hit the mark that they need to yet. I think they're still warming up. At the end of the day, though, they do still have the quality, obviously, of the best centre-back in the world, best goalkeeper, best fullbacks, best wings. Liverpool, don't get me wrong, still a really good squad. But I do think I might go with Chelsea in this prediction, oddly enough. I think Chelsea, if the team clicks well together, they could get a 3-2 win versus Liverpool. I don't know what the result will be. Obviously, this is just my opinion. But I do think whatever the result is, that it will be close. The only reason I'm going for the likes of Chelsea is because looking at Liverpool's defense, they were kind of slow, badly positioned, and I'm talking about the centre-backs in the game versus Leeds. And looking at Timo Werner, that is something he capitalizes off of. And if both teams play the way they did in the previous game, I think Timo Werner will take his opportunities versus Gomez and Van Dijk. The next game is actually a really difficult one to predict. It's Leicester City versus Burnley, which, wow, we have been treated with so many good games for match week 2 of the Premier League. Leicester City versus Burnley could really go either way. Looking at Leicester City, attacking-wise, they are brilliant. Burnley, defensive-wise, they are brilliant. It could really go either way. The only thing I'm concerned about for Leicester City is the fact that they are struggling to score more from open play. In their game versus West Brom, 3-0, fantastic win, but 2 of those were penalties. They didn't take the chances that they should have, but I am worried about Burnley defensive-wise at the same time. I mean, defensively, they were fantastic last season, but looking at them, it is their first game. They haven't warmed up quite yet, and I am worried in terms of Nick Pope. Obviously, he was called up to the England squad, but didn't get that much game time, so I'm not too sure how warmed up he'll be in the goalkeeper position. Could really go either way, but I might just edge it in Leicester City's favour if they start to improve in open play. Leicester City, 1-0 win over Burnley. Could go either way, will be a close game. My player to watch will be Jamie Vardy. Scored the most goals in the Premier League last season. Scored 2 penalties in the previous, but I'm sure he'll be hungry for more. We are treated to another great fixture. Sheffield United versus Aston Villa, or Aston Villa versus Sheffield United. Aston Villa are at home. Now, if it was last season, I would choose Sheffield United every day of the week. But unfortunately, it is not last season. I don't think defensively Sheffield United are as good as last season. Just watching that game versus Wolves, Sheffield United looked a bit mismatched when it came to their defensive style of play. And I've said this a few times, I know it's coming across as quite tedious, me saying this over and over, but Aaron Ramsdale, he's a great goalkeeper, but he's just not Dean Henderson, unfortunately. I think I will go for the likes of Aston Villa. They, of course, beat Manchester United 1-0 in a pre-season friendly, and in the EFL Cup, they beat Burton 3-1. I think the player to watch in the fixture is probably going to be Ollie Watkins, and he's probably going to be the difference maker in this game. I think Villa will win 2-0. Ollie Watkins, player to watch. He scored against Man United and he scored against Burton in the Carabao Cup. Now, yes, I know his goal was a tap-in, but it's not the quality of goal that I think he'll do well versus Sheffield United. It's the confidence. 26 goals last season. I think he is a proper goal scorer. And him, along with Jack Grealish, who has just signed a new contract, I think that could be unbeatable attacking-wise versus teams like Sheffield United. Final game of this match week prediction episode, which, by the way, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, please do consider subscribing. As I said, it helps me out a lot more than you guys realize. I'd really appreciate it. But Wolverhampton Wanderers versus Manchester City, this could be a really good game. As looking at Wolves, they have an incredible record versus Man City over the last 2-3 seasons since they've been promoted. They've looked really good versus Man City, but Manchester City this season have a point to prove. It is their first game of the season, and after how embarrassed they were last season, I'm sure they'll want to come back stronger than ever versus Wolves. I think it will be a close game because looking at Wolves, their attack looked really good versus Sheffield United. I think Jota looked really fast. Adama Traore could have picked up a tiny bit. Jimenez had some great chances. It could really be a seriously close game. And looking at Manchester City, their downfalls is Mahrez and Laporte will probably miss the game as they do have COVID-19, unfortunately, which, by the way, I do wish them the best of luck and a speedy recovery. In my opinion, I think this game might go Manchester City's way. I will give Man City a 3-2 win because even without Laporte, they now have Aka. I think Aka is a huge difference maker in the centre-back position. There will be a lot of goals, as I said, 3-2, and the player to watch, probably Kevin De Bruyne. I mean, 20 assists last Premier League season. You cannot not watch a player like that. As I said, there will be a lot of goals in this game, and it will be so exciting to watch. Alright everyone, that is it for my Premier League predictions for Premier League Match Week 2. What an exciting week it is going to be. There are so many really good games. And if you have not seen my table predictions, please check them out in the I thingy up above, or I'll put them up at on the end screen of this video. But once again guys, if you have enjoyed it and you do like regular Premier League content, please do consider subscribing to this channel. Once again, means so much to me. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your days. This has been Finn. Love and appreciate every single one of you. Stay awesome. Cheers.